Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining me for the Anti TBR Tag. It's been ages and ages since I've done a tag, not because I dislike tags, it's just been a matter of really time and finding a good one to do. Hannah's Books tagged me for the Anti TBR Tag. Hannah over at Hannah's Books tagged a bunch of booktubers who are also knitters, of which I am one. I don't talk about it a lot on my channel, but if you've seen a few of my historical videos, you'll see that a couple of years ago, I decided to teach myself knitting off of, and I used YouTube mainly as that resource. Also, Peg the Booktube Addict helped me out with that, getting started here locally where I live. We had a couple of meetups around knitting, so that's how I learned to knit, and it's just been a really fun hobby that I've picked up, over the last couple of years. I last year taught myself then crochet, which I have a crochet project going on right now. I'm going to talk about that at the end of this tag. But going into the anti-TBR tag, so the anti-TBR tag, so I'm really a reading generalist, so I have this narrative constructed about my reading style where I am an eclectic reader. I'm open to anything, right? That's my narrative. I am a really eclectic reader and really a generalist. So I've read, it's not unusual for me for a very famous author, for example, to have only read one of their works, read their work, loved it, like Virginia Woolf is a case in point, read one of her works, loved it, read Mrs. Dalloway. I have meant to read more ever since and just haven't gotten around to it yet because, I'm spending my time on other things, just a generalist, right? So this anti-TBR tag is really those books or authors that, you are making a decision for whatever reason to not spend your time engaging with those works. So let's just jump into the tag. I think it'll become more clear as we go along through the questions. So question one is a popular book everyone loves that you have no interest in reading. So I thought this through, and popular books that I have absolutely no interest in reading. So the choice I have, I know these books are loved by millions of people. It's been a gateway to reading for many, many people, but I have no interest in the Harry Potter books or the films. I tried. It just, that world does not engage me, and so, it's fine if, I realize that they're loved by millions, like I said, but I'm just not one of them. So I don't have a lot of interest in really, exploring that any further. So I read the first one, and then, so the subsequent books of the Harry Potter series, I don't have an interest in reading. All right. Number two, a classic book or author you don't have an interest in reading. So a classic book or author you don't have an interest in reading. So I gave this a lot of thought too, like what are some classic books that I have not read, like Ivanhoe? And I thought, I might want to read Ivanhoe, or Don Quixote. I thought, yeah, I might want to read Don Quixote. So these classic books lots of classic books that I haven't read yet. So then I started thinking about authors, like who are classic authors of classic books that I really don't engage with their work. And again, it's another beloved figure in literary history, and that is Mark Twain. Mark Twain, I don't particularly feel engaged by his works. I've tried to engage with them several times over the years, and I just don't. So I don't really have an interest in reading Mark Twain at this point. All right, number three, an author or a problematic author whose books you have no interest in reading. So an author or a problematic author. So I was thinking this through, and I was thinking, like, why would I not want to read an author? And so it came up, the first two that came to mind, these are also very well-known people, very well-known authors that are loved by lots of people, but I have sort of a mental block against reading their works. And the first one that came to mind for me was Orson Scott Card of Ender's Game, science fiction author, very famous, considered classic works of science fiction by this author. He's also really an anti-gay author, and it's not that he's anti-gay, that appears in his works all that much. It's that he actually used his platform as an author to try to make that political statement. And so to me, that's a real turnoff to me. So I've never read any of his works, and I don't really have an interest in spending my reading time on that author when I have lots of other choices as far as what to read. And then another example is Ernest Hemingway. So Ernest Hemingway has always turned me off kind of as a person with his hyper-masculinity, and I'm sure his works are really good. I did try to read, I think, For Whom the Bell Tolls many, many years ago, and it was okay. But just because I just don't have an interest in Ernest Hemingway. And then finally, the last author I would mention here would be Ezra Pound. Ezra Pound, really important poet and literary critic of the early first half of the 20th century, who became a fascist, though, and decided to use his position as in sort of the literati to go to Italy and do radio broadcasts for Mussolini. So it's really a interesting dilemma, right? As far as an artist and then their works are two different things. But sometimes, I'm a human being and I can't necessarily separate those two. I try to. There's lots of authors in the past that are problematic for one reason or another because they don't live in our time. And so they experienced the world differently, and they had different worldviews and different sort of came from different cultures than we exist in today. So what might be morally repugnant to us today in the past would not maybe even have been realized to some authors. And at what point do we draw the line, like the 19th century? It's a question, right? And there's not an easy answer to that. And I just have to go with what I feel here. And these three authors, I just feel like I don't feel like I'm missing that much by just skipping over their works. So if anyone has any reason why, any argument against that, I'd be happy to hear you out. But I just have lots of other stuff to read. All right, enough on that. Question number 4, an author you have read a couple of books from and decided their books are not for you. Okay, so the first author, again, I have two, very well loved by millions of people. There's no question that these two authors are not important for the 20th and the 21st century, but their works don't really resonate with me. And the first one that came to mind was Stephen King. I've read several of his works. I did enjoy The Stand, and I enjoyed The Shining, and that's about it. I've read probably about 3 or 4 others of his works, and then I just gave up on him as an author because, again, I have other people I can read. I'm sure he's got some other entertaining books and some other pretty good books, but I don't know, his style doesn't really resonate with me, and I think that's my problem also with Margaret Atwood, another beloved author by millions around the world. I read The Handmaid's Tale, and I love me a good dystopia, but that one I just fell short. It didn't pull me in that much. I realize it speaks to our times now to a lot of people. I totally understand that, as well as the adaptation, the series adaptation that's on whatever streaming service it's on. But the book itself just did not resonate with me. Then I decided to try another one. So I read the Penelopiad, which is a sort of a telling of the Odyssey from the perspective of Penelope. Odysseus' wife, Penelope, and this should be something that I would just love. And to me, it was a little stale. It had its moments, but I didn't love it. So yeah. Okay. Number 5, a genre you have no interest in, or a genre you tried to get into and you couldn't. So I don't really engage with YA fiction. This is probably my problem with the Harry Potter thing. It's like I realize I'm not the audience for Harry Potter anyway, but there's X amount of percent, like a pretty high percent of adults who read YA, and that's fine. If YA is your thing, go forth and read YA and enjoy it. But for me, I just don't. That genre typically doesn't click with me. And then for fiction, that's fiction. So for nonfiction, nonfiction we don't think is genre, but there are topics. And so for nonfiction, I really don't like political memoirs, and I'm not that into biographies. Biographies I can read. Some, but they're not. It's not my go-to. It's not something I go to. It's something I have to consciously decide to read usually because of the subject matter. But political memoirs, I really never read. I think that political works like biographies and things. I recently read a biography of Herbert Hoover, and I talked about in that chat, which I'll link to down in the details, that, enough time, it's been about 90 years since he was president. So to me, that's enough time that, we can start to sort of get a historical perspective. But politicians and political figures and often celebrities are sort of larger than life in the current present. And given some distance with history, though, I think sometimes we get a better look at their lives. I hope that makes sense. So, all right. Next, number 6, a book you have bought but will never read. This can be a book you unhauled or return to the library unread. Okay, so I read just in time. I do just in time book buying. I've done this for years, so I don't really browse books and just get them because I think they would be good. I really decide what I'm gonna read, and I don't buy the book until that moment. Even used books, if I go to a used bookstore, I don't typically just buy books because I like the author or because I think I might read it. I'm really a deliberative when it comes to purchasing books. So I gave this a whole lot of thought, and I cannot think of a book that I have bought in the last 10 years that I have no intention of reading or I did not read. And I'm also a finisher, so I very rarely do I DNR something or DNF something. So yeah. All right, number 7, a series you have no interest in reading or a series you started and DNF'd. So again, I don't really commit to series. So if a series appeals to me, I will keep reading in it. Otherwise, I can just read one book out of a series or 2 books out of a series completely guilt-free and not worry about it. There's that. But the series that really pops to mind for me here is The Expanse by James S.A. Corey. I thought I was going to love this series, and I planned to read all of them. And then when I read the first one, it did not resonate with me at all. It really felt really bro sci-fi to me, and I think I talked about that maybe on the video that I did about that years ago. But I did not. The Expanse is a series that I started. I read one. I'm not going to pick up anymore. Other series like maybe the Culture series by N.M. Banks, I might pick up again. I've read several of those, but not the whole series. Okay, finally, number 8, a new release you have no interest in reading. A new release you have no interest in reading. I'm going to say here, A Promised Land by Barack Obama. It's not anything against Barack Obama. It's that I don't really like political memoirs. So this book is apparently flying off the shelves right now. It's a new release. It seems to be very popular, selling very well, but I have no interest in reading it due to I just can't really do political memoir. Okay. That is the Anti TBR tag. So I was tagged because I am a knitter. I do have a crochet project going on right now. Now, this is an upcycled rug. I'm making a rug. This is upcycled t-shirts. So it's t-shirts here. You cut up t-shirts and then you use yarn and create a kind of a throw rug. I've made several of these now, and they're super fun to make, and I love the idea of upcycling. So this is my current project. Anyway, thank you again, Hannah, at Hannah's Books for tagging me. I don't think I will tag anybody. I think I will tag anybody who wants to, jump in and give your thoughts on this Anti TBR tag. Feel free to leave comments below or post your own video. Okay, until next time, take care. Bye.